Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What would you say is the problem that you're solving right now?
I want to give women in Silicon Valley more access to funding.
I love that. Can I get some photos of you right here?
Yeah.
And get a little bit further back. So beautiful. And if you would go back in time, what is something that you would tell your younger self at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey?
So the one thing I would tell myself is that people think that they need to have like a co-founder, but that's not necessarily the case. You could do it alone as well and support yourself and have community support you as well. And I guess also too is I would have gone solo, I think maybe very early on in my career, to be a solo entrepreneur. So I think sometimes people say like, oh, you need to have a co-founder. And then I'm like, if a co-founder like helps, then I think that's great. But sometimes you don't need a co-founder. So
I love that. What are the advantages of doing it on your own, would you say?
I think doing it on your own, you have a lot of autonomy and you own your creative process. And if you do find a co-founder, you guys have to align perfectly on the same mission. Also, too, is sometimes the more time passes by, sometimes the visions don't align. But I think now that, I've been doing it on my own, it's given me more creativity to be like unbounded.
I love that. That's great advice. Let's get a couple photos right over here. Can I have you sitting on this chair?
Okay.
Get some right over here. Cute. What's something that you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
Yeah, so I'm working on Funded Female Founders, and essentially Funded Female Founders is to showcase women who have raised capital and grown and scaled their startup and have or exited, and they also feature VCs that back them. Powerful women, dynamic women in one room, and now I'm going to be doing the third one. So I'm very excited.
That is really exciting. What got you to start the series?
So what got me to start the series was I actually had about 15 to 20 female founders tell me that they couldn't find events that were useful. And considering I've produced over 100 events, they have come to me to ask me to produce it. And I thought that was a very big ask. And so I said, yes, I'll do it. I became the one that did it. And I concepted the deck, I pitched it, and I partnered with Startup Brian to do it. And so now we have a lot of traction for the next one. So we're excited about the next one, yeah.
Nice, amazing. Let's get some photos of you right over here. I'll have you standing by this door. And I'll get a little further back. What would you say is something that is not talked about enough in your industry?
Yeah, so according to data, less than 3% of founders that are female are VC backed. And that's not even close to 3%, it's less than 3%. So my mission is to bring that up 1 minute at a time.
Ah, that's a really important mission. We definitely need more women that are backed. Let's get some just right over here. Can I have you standing right here? And let me get further back. Beautiful. What is something that you do behind the scenes that makes a big difference, but most people might not know about?
Yeah. The one thing that I'm doing behind the scenes, there's many different things, is I am super connecting myself with other communities to make even more of an impact. And I think people think that throwing events is just doing the marketing, but you have to really form really deep relationships with other super connectors so you can make super connected events. And the people that you form relationships with have to align on the same mission to want to help other female entrepreneurs wholeheartedly. So I think that's the one thing that I strive for, is to network efficiently so I can build this out.
What tips would you have for someone who's trying to network?
So I always tell people, put yourself out there, because you never know where one door is going to lead you to. And I think the great thing about networking is that everything in life is networking, and it's an integral facet of my life. So my friends that I've networked with, my close friends, are people I've met at my events, and people that I have met, just as friends, have come to my events to support my work. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I love that. What would you say? You mentioned finding people who are mission aligned. How do you go about finding those people?
So I think there's a lot of people that, do events and do community as well, but sometimes there's not on the same page of alignment. And I think when you're doing alignment is understanding the goals it takes in order to do a successful event, and then beta testing it, seeing if there's traction, and then doing it over and over again. So I think that's the key thing to finding alignment, because not everyone you work with you're going to have a strong alignment with, but there's going to be some that you work with you're like, okay, this is going to be a strong relationship.
I love that. Yeah, testing it out first and then seeing if it goes to something deeper. I love that. That's really helpful advice. Nice. Let's get some photos right over here. I can have you sit in this chair in the corner. Beautiful. Was there ever a time that you thought of giving up?
Yeah, there was times I thought about giving up when I was winding down my last business, because there was parts that were like super challenging, and I didn't want to continue, with my previous mission. And then what happened was I decided that I was going to start a new one. But it's kind of getting from one big ship to the new ship. It's always scary because you never know if you're going to succeed or fail. But considering that I've already started a previous one, I can always create a new one. And it's going to take some work. And also, I feel like even if I did events before in the past that weren't as great, those are learning lessons to never give up and do bigger and better events.
Yeah, I love that. It is hard letting go of an old business and transitioning into a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Let's do a couple over here by this door. What would you say to someone who's stuck in a business that they don't feel aligned with, and they know they need to change it, but they feel stuck?
I would say that if you feel stuck in a business, go back to your core mission and values and figure out an exit strategy or an exit plan. And when you're thinking about an exit plan, really map out and design what you want for the future. And I think that's the key component to leaving your last one to start a new one.
I love that. How do you release it emotionally? How do you know when it's the right time?
I think it's the right time when you feel like you want to break up with a boyfriend that you've been wanting to break up with for a long time, and you just really need to break up. Move all your stuff out of the house. Essentially. You're like, okay, I'm done. That's it. I'm leaving.
And that's when you know it's time to move on to the next business.
Yes.
I love it. That's a good way to tell if you feel like it's done. Let's get a couple photos just right over here. What would you say is your deeper why?
I would say my deeper why is creating impactful events that people remember for a lifetime. And hopefully, I can inspire other people to create their own events. That is a legacy that I want to leave. And I think that that inspiring a future generation of current women and younger women to be more empowered, that they can build businesses, they can build startups, they can go to space, they can be engineers. I think that's what empowers me to do the work that I'm doing right now.
Nice. I love it. Let's do one last shot over here, and then I think we're good. Stay right there. Stay right there. Let's have you stand by the flower. And